What's good, YouTube? Socom Srs here, and I'm back with another Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video. We're here for January 24th, 2020's reset. So let's get right into this and see what we got good for this week. Okay, so for our first gear items, we're going to head over to the meat locker. Here, the weapons vendor has a heavy magazine spring with 4.50% reload speed, 3% crit hit chance, and 10.40% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to Camp Hudson. Here, the weapons vendor has a small grip with 17% crit hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 4.50% reload speed. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the base operations. Here, the Dark Zone gear vendor has a heavy magazine spring with 4.50% reload speed, 11% magazine size, and 10.70% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're still the base operations. The weapons vendor here has a large Suppressor FDE with 17% crit hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the advanced weaponry vendor, and here we got a tactical AUG A3P with a gear score of 263. It has 21% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is Unforgiven, Ferocious, and Hurried. Also here we got a SRS-A1 with a gear score of 277. It has 170% headshot damage, and the talents it has is Fierce, Deadly, and Talented. Also here we got a custom L86A2 with a gear score of 277. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is Vicious, Deadly, and Competent. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the special equipment vendor, and here we got a Liberator with a gear score of 274. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and talents it has is Deadly, Dominant, and Brutal. Also here we got a Cassidy with a gear score of 268. It has 335% stagger, and the talents it has is Vicious, Self-Preserved, and Boomstick. Also here we got a Historian with a gear score of 281. It has 163% headshot damage, and the talents it has is Swift, Brutal, and Historian Repeats. Also here we got a Socom Scar L with a gear score of 263. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is Ferocious, Fierce, and Sustain. And also here we got a Black Market SASG 12S with a gear score of 265. It has 335.50% stagger, and the talents it has is Fierce, Capable, and Deadly. Also here we got an Operator Mask with the talent Enduring on there with a gear score of 265. It has 856 armor. Its roll for firearms 1,201. And the attributes it has is exotic damage resilience and burn resistance. Also here we got an Operator Pack with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 262. The armor is 1,183. Its roll for electronics 1,126. And the attributes it has is health and bleed resistance. Also here we got some Operator Gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 271. The armor is 899. Its roll for stamina 1,205, and the attributes it has is skill haste, shotgun damage, and critical hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Cavern. Here the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 2% pulse crit hit chance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Kermit Station. Here the weapons vendor has an Omega rifle suppressor with 17% headshot damage, 2.50% crit hit chance, and 4.50% optimal range. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Camp Clinton. Here the special equipment vendor has an Operator Mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 261. The armor is 869. Its roll for stamina 1,121. And the attributes it has is exotic damage resilience and blind death resistance. Also here we got a Gunslingers Vest with the talent Reckless on there. It has a gear score of 263. The armor is 1,811. Its roll for electronics 1,147. And the attributes it has is exotic damage resilience, enemy armor damage, and increased kill XP. Also here we got an Operator Pack with the talent Specialized on there. It has a gear score of 280. The armor is 1,304. Its roll for stamina 1,259. And the attributes it has is stability and ammo capacity. Also here we got some tactical gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 995. Its roll for electronics 1,128, and the attributes it has is marksman's rifle damage, crit hit damage, and pistol damage. Also here we got an Omega rifle suppressor with 17% headshot damage, 4.50% optimal range, and 4% crit hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Autumn's Hope. Here, the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 7.50% ballistic shield health. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Madison's Stand. Here, the gear vendor has a prototype firearms mod with 208 firearms and 3% damage to elites. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Last Call. Here, the weapons vendor has a Socom Mk SSR with a gear score of 268. It has 155% headshot damage, and the talents it has is proficient, competent, and prepared. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Ward. Here, the gear vendor has the Operator Vest with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 269. The armor is 1,750. Its roll for electronics 1,222, and attributes it has is health, skill haste, and increased kill XP. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 4.50% ballistic shield damage resilience. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the Firewall. Here the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 5.50% sticky bomb explosion radius. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 34th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Covert Srs with a gear score of 278. It has 163% headshot damage, and the talents it has is cool-headed, competent, and adept. Also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 1,236. Its roll for stamina 1,119, and the attributes it has is skill power and burn resistance. Also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 265 electronics and 2.50% exotic damage resilience. For our next gear items, we want to head over to West 39th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Police M4 with a gear score of 279. It has 19% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is adept, deadly, and ferocious. Also here we got an Operator Mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 276. It has 968 armor. Its roll for firearms 1,197. And the attributes it has is crit hit chance and disorienting resistance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 46th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a tactical vest with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 1,730. Its roll for electronics 1,233. And the attributes it has is all resistance, health, and ammo capacity. And then also here we got an extended magazine with 109% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 5.10% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 53rd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an enhanced AUG A3P with a gear score of 279. It has 20% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is adept, deadly, and talented. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 61st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has a heavy magazine spring with 4.50% reload speed, 4% crit hit damage, and 10% rate of fire. And also here we got an Omega Rifle Suppressor tan with 18.50% headshot damage, 3% crit hit chance, and 2% accuracy. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 58th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 270. The armor is 892. Its roll for firearms 1,220. And the attributes it has is skill power and disorienting resistance. And also here we got a Operator Vest with the talent Rapid on there. It has a gear score of 279. The armor is 1,984. Its roll for electronics 1,239. And the attributes it has is health, health on kill, and increased kill XP. And then also here we got a tactical pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 269. The armor is 1,140. Its roll for firearms 1,232. And the attributes it has is skill power and burn resistance. And then also here we got some Gunslingers gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 987. Its roll for stamina 1,257. And the attributes it has is health on kill, marksman's rifle damage, and crit hit chance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the Park Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has an AUG A3 Para XS with a gear score of 273. It has 22.50% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is brutal, deadly, and vicious. Also here we got an M870 Express with a gear score of 262. It has 320.50% stagger, and the talents it has is competent, ferocious, and talented. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 53rd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an MP7 with a gear score of 278. It has 19.50% crit hit chance, And the talents it has is brutal, adept, and talented. And also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent inventive on there. It has a gear score of 276. The armor is 1,242. Its roll for electronics 1,265. And the attributes it has is crit hit damage and disrupt resistance. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 4% support station healing speed. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 46th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a heavy magazine spring with 5% reload speed, 4% crit damage, and 10.20% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 42nd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a prototype stamina mod with 261 stamina and 1% crit hit chance. And then also here we got a pro red dot sight with 17% crit hit damage, 6% headshot damage, and 2.50% crit hit chance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 40th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a loud vent break with 17% crit hit damage, 2.50% stability, and 4.50% optimal range. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 34th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an operator mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 277. The armor is 952. Its roll for firearms 1,195. And the attributes it has is all resistance and disorienting resistance. And then also here we got a prototype stamina mod with 261 stamina and 3% skill haste. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 31st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Socom Mk SSR with a gear score of 268. It has 162% headshot damage, and the talents it has is proficient, brutal, and sustained. And also here we got a Spec Ops mask with the talent refreshed on there. It has a gear score of 259. The armor is 859. Its roll for stamina 1,151. And the attributes it has is enemy armor damage and increased kill XP. And also here we got a small red grip with 17% crit hit damage, 2.50% stability, and 2% accuracy. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the 5th Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Surplus SVD with a gear score of 278. It has 149% headshot damage. The talents it has is ferocious, brutal, and disciplined. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ2 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has an operator mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 921. Its roll for electronics 1,251. And the attributes it has is crit chance and blind death resistance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ3 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a military G36 with a gear score of 263. It has 21% enemy armor damage. And the talents it has is destructive, prepared, and focused. And here we got a double barrel sawed-off shotgun. I feel like it's the perfect sidearm for me. It has a gear score of 280. The stagger on it is 346.50%, but that's not the important thing. What we want here is the determined, predatory, and sustained. Mine is just like this, except determined is in the bottom talent. And then also here we got a classic M60 with a gear score of 278. It has 18% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents it has is deadly, capable, and fierce. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ4 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear mod vendor has a prototype electronics mod with 254 electronics and 1% crit hit chance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ5 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has an extended magazine with 115.50% magazine size, 4% reload speed, and 4.90% rate of fire. And also here we got a 5.52 hollow sight 10 with 8% crit hit chance, 5% optimal range, and 6% headshot damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ8 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 965. Its roll for stamina 1,149. And the attributes it has is health on kill and burn resistance. And also here we got a tactical vest with the talent Vigorous on there. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 1,740. Its roll for electronics 1,199. And the attributes it has is enemy armor damage, skill haste, and ammo capacity. And then also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 1,324. Its roll for firearms 1,136. And the attributes it has is health and burn resistance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ9 Safe Room. Here the Dark Zone weapon mods vendor has an extended magazine with 110.50% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 5.10% rate of fire. Alright everybody, that's it for our Tom Clancy's The Division vendor reset video for January 24th, 2020's vendor reset. I hope the video was able to help anybody out who needed any gear. Thank you to anybody who's subbing to the channel. If y'all hadn't, hit that sub button, smash that like button too. Thank you to everybody who's already doing that. I appreciate that support. And I will see y'all with the next one, everybody. Take care. Peace.